wrestling fans, and welcome back to another edition of NBC's 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall. On today's episode, though, I have Nick Aldis with me. Nick, how you doing today?
I'm good, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. And June 11th, we have the Alwayz with a Z Ready pay-per-view NWA. You're supposed to be taking on Matt Cardona for the NWA championship, but he says he needs surgery. He says he's injured. What exactly is going to happen at this event with you two apparently still going to wrestle? No one really knows what's happening.
Well, let's back it up for a sec. Let's go back. Maybe we should rename the pay-per-view to Delicious Irony, seeing as this egomaniac demanded that they name the pay-per-view after his little catchphrase, "Always ready," and then he's not ready. He gets hurt. I think that's called karma. So yeah, I've got a list of potential name replacements for the pay-per-view if anybody's interested. But it seems like the NWA office at the moment is determined to bend over for Matt Cardona, and it's paying off dividends, I can see. But look, all I'll say, I don't know what the plan is. Contrary to what some people might think, I'm a wrestler, with the NWA. So, any influence I have is influence that I've earned, from putting in the work, not from cozying up to the boss or from sort of hoodwinking people into thinking that I have more influence than I actually have. So I will be there, like I'm always there, and I will close the show like I always close the show. And I don't really give a crap whether Matt Cardona's hurt or not. Ultimately, if he's there and I'm there, Matt Cardona has disrespected me continuously now for months, and he's got a receipt coming. And this isn't a wrestling this isn't a hype thing for the pay-per-view. This isn't a wrestling talk to try to sort of drum up interest. Like, he's got a receipt and it's coming, and I don't care if he's hurt. I don't care if he's in a cast. I don't care if he's in a 45-degree splint. I don't care what he is. He's got a receipt coming for all the disrespect that he's paid me and the NWA.
Because when I think of NWA, I think you are the face of that brand, of that company.
Well, I agree. I appreciate that. That doesn't seem to sit very well with some people. That's maybe.
Why would that be, though? Why do you think that people don't like that?
Well, the same reason that people don't like anyone being credited for what they've done, because they're jealous, because they want the credit for themselves, or they want some people don't know how to sort of put themselves in that position. They only know how to maneuver other people out of that position. Right? There are some people in this business sort of take pride in getting an opportunity and then sort of taking the mentality of a rising tide lifts all ships. And then some people in this business take the mentality of, I'm going to wait until someone else has done the work, then I'm going to come in and I'm just going to chit chat to the boss and plant seeds of discontent, and I'm going to just try to take his spot, and I'm going to try to sort of let the other person do all the work. And this business only really works when the majority of people in it take the approach, the first approach I mentioned. Right? And unfortunately, too many people in this business have the latter. And some of them are even coming in for the first time at this pay-per-view, and that's how they operate. And guys like me and others who have been integral in the NWA's success, we see it for what it is. But all I can do is continue to do the work and deliver, which I've done every single time without fail. People can say whatever they want about me. but they can never say that when the pressure's on and it's been the NWA, you know, I've always delivered in the crunch.
And again, you have your look, everything you do in the ring, the way you speak. Like you are, if I was putting together the perfect person to represent my company and the perfect, like if I'm creating a wrestler, you have the look, you have the skills, the clothes, everything about you screams, hey, I'm the face. I should be the face, and this is why I am the face. But you're talking about people trying to knock you off your pedestal. So Matt Cardona, you think, is one of those people, or there have been other people in the past since the reemergence of NWA that have tried to do this to you?
It's never ending, Steve. I mean, it's not just in the NWA. I mean, it happens everywhere, and I've witnessed it. You have to remember, I really got thrown in at the deep end in this industry. I signed with TNA when I was 21 years old, and I was, way too inexperienced and green, for that piranha pit, and some of the stuff I witnessed during my 6 years there, was astonishing. But what it did do was it conditioned me to understand that, in this business, you have to. It's a weird dichotomy, right, in wrestling, because we're independent contractors. You have to look out for number one. You have to do but like I'm in the Nick Aldis business, right?
Of course.
But at the same time, I've always believed that the best way to benefit, my business, right? If you're looking at Nick Aldis, the wrestler, right, as one of my enterprises, much like in any other profession, the best way to enhance your business is to improve the business of everyone that you're in business with. And in my case, that's the promotion that you're currently under contract to and the wrestlers that you wrestle, right? Like if the only way that I can succeed is at the expense of other people, then there's going to be no one for me to do business with, right? And again, I don't want this to be a sort of retroactive. I'm very comfortable in what I've done with the NWA, but when you look at where it started, in 2017, nobody gave it a chance. No people were actively asking the question, like, what is the point? Why are they doing this? Who cares? And obviously we people talk about All In a lot, and All In was obviously a great night and a huge sort of feather in my cap. What it really was for me was validation, that when I'm given the ball, and I don't just mean given the ball, I mean really given the responsibility of here's the ball and call the play.
Yeah.
Right. I've been able to make it work. And Cody and I did that together. But then I also did it with Tim Storm. I also did it with Marty Skrull. I also did it with Trevor Murdoch, and I've always taken the mentality of what I always wanted to follow follow the example of Rick, Harley, Nick Bockwinkel, Bret Hart, like the guys who took pride in being the wrestling champion, whom everybody who got to wrestle them came out the other end better, more valuable, and it did good business. There's a phrase that gets thrown around in wrestling a lot, is it's a good piece of business, right? If you see an in-ring angle, you see a promo segment, or you see an interaction, or you see a TV match, that's designed to achieve a certain purpose, and it works, and you can feel the audience sort of not necessarily, it's not just about a pop, but you feel the audience kind of clicking, like, yeah. Oh, something's happening here. I'm witnessing something. I'm part of something. And you come back. That's when you say that's a good piece of business, meaning that everybody involved in this is going to make money, is going to improve their value, going to improve their worth. And that's what I've always set out to do. You know, no matter who I've been in business with, I didn't know how to do that in TNA, like for real. You know, I was too green. And, you know, the way that company was structured, there was no way, and this isn't a knock on anybody, but there was no way that they were ever going to take a 26, 27-year-old kid like I was at that time and go, you call the play, you know, you do it exactly the way you want, right? Like it was always going to be a compromise of sort of, we think this, you think that. And obviously, you know, I'm surrounded by huge stars who have, you know, drawn millions, right? Made millions. So, but, you know, the NWA, the most gratifying thing for me was that, you know, we had nothing to lose, right? And I had nothing to lose. It was, you know, do the whole thing, you know, do it the way you want. Do like, here's the ball, right? Like, how do you see this?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to be able to see that, and then to sort of fast forward to All In, and then NWA 70, the rematch with Cody and I, and then the Crockett Cup with Marty and I, you know, and then selling out center stage for Ring of Honor after all the elite guys had left, you know, and they were terrified about what was going to happen, you know, and then to NWA Power and the, you know, the incredible response that the show got in its early seasons, you know, and then the return of wrestling at the Chase, you know, I've got a body of work that in my, you know, to me, in my opinion, I can sort of hang my hat on as like, I did good business for everybody, not just me.
Do you feel like that, you brought up TNA, do you feel like the opportunities were there, but there were going to be people no matter what? Because you brought up all these great wrestlers in the past, but at some point when you're on top, you obviously somehow have to also, and again, it's very difficult to maneuver. You obviously have to keep yourself on top by kind of not holding down others, but at the same time, how do you stay on top? Well, you have to maneuver yourself political a little bit to get staying there. You know, Bret Hart was a great wrestler, but also Bret Hart wasn't going to be world champion unless he helped others, but helped himself. And you brought up, you know, what business are you in? The Nick Aldis business. At the same time, you are helping people, but there had to have been people trying to take your spot, and you're like, well, I have to feed my family too.
Yeah, well, there was one in particular, you know, who had been champion in the, you know, in TNA, you know, a little while prior to my first, you know, when I got the title.
Mm-hmm.
And I, you know, it was obvious to me that they were doing everything they could to sort of diminish, you know, me, and to sort of do, you know, pull all sorts of little tricks with the office and behind the scenes to sort of create this illusion that I was, you know, cracking under pressure. I was struggling. And the reality of it is that I was young, you know, I wasn't used to that. Like I wrestled every position on the card in that company. You know, like I'd been everything
first match to last match.
Right. And I'd been involved, and I had the Brutus Magnus gimmick with the gladiator helmet. You know, I'd had like where they threw me and Nigel McGuinness together for a hot minute, and they had me dressing totally differently. Like they had us doing, you know, like skits at the shopping mall. I did stuff where, you know, mixed tags where ODB's like slapping me on the ass. I mean, I was a trooper. Right. I sort of took, you know, I got given all kinds of stuff, and, you know, always tried my best to make it work. I worked with pretty much everyone in the company at one point or other. But it was only when I got to that point as the world champion that it was the first time I'd actually experienced, like, I'm looking around going, everyone must see this. You must be able to realize what this guy is doing. You must be able to realize that this guy's completely trying to fuck me, you know, like it. And I would be told, oh, you're just paranoid, you know, you're young, you know, don't worry. And, you know, it's you know, and it's a tough thing. But again, it's not a situation that was unique to me or to TNA. The truth is that what I've seen is that that kind of stuff will only get you so far, right? Like it may achieve something temporarily, but the chances are, if you're the type of person that's trying to pull that kind of thing, it's because you don't have any specific evidence or any specific metric to sort of back up that you should be in that spot instead, right? It's a short-term sort of fleeting thing, and again, it's why it's so detrimental, because it's, it would be like if Pepsi were running all kinds of smear campaigns against Coke, but then people don't buy Pepsi either. So that, that's why that's not allowed in advertising. Like there's a strict sort of regulation. There's a strict line that you can't cross in terms of like what you can and can't say about your competitors, because ultimately, in the end, if all you've been able to achieve is that somebody doesn't buy your competitor, but they don't buy you either, then you're all losing.
Right. Well, if you keep bringing up your competitor, it always seems like you're worried about your competitor. And if someone, I have many guesses on who you're talking about, but they might be involved with our company, so I'm not going to bring. We don't need to do that. We're not dragging anyone through the mud here. But at the same time, you go back in the history. I remember hearing stories about people telling The Rock, "Oh, that eyebrow thing is stupid. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that. That elbow thing with the shoulder pad. That's stupid. Don't do that." And those people, clear as day, were jealous.
The chances are they probably
were
saw it was working.
Trying to hold them. Oh, don't do that, because then if you get over, then I won't get over. And obviously, The Rock got over. He's the biggest name in the world of wrestling actors. He might be our president in the United States someday. We never know.
I remember hearing Ultimate Warrior talk about something similar, where he would come back and it was the same few guys would constantly say, "Don't shake the ropes, don't do that. That's stupid. Don't run to the ring." Like, and yeah, it's just hard, because unfortunately our business is destined to forever be a sort of self-cannibalizing business, just in the fact that it's born out of sort of carny, roots, right? So as much as the cat's out of the bag, and as sort of open as we are now about the fact that it's entertainment and what we're doing with it, there's a nature to our business of dishonesty, lying and sort of embellishing and create and sort of misrepresenting stuff for your own gain. So look, it's, and I don't want the whole conversation to be this sort of negative sort of trip down the annals of wrestling politics, but it's all I'll say is that I've always been very proud of the work I've done in the last 4 years, primarily because I was able to reinvent myself and increase my value, whilst simultaneously reigniting the interest in the NWA Championship and the NWA, and thirdly being able to sort of raise the profile and status of a lot of wrestlers along the way, and that's, to me, is having been told that by guys like Harley before he passed, and Dory and Rick, and Austin Idol, and a lot of and guys from my generation too, who whose opinion I really value, to be to get a phone call from somebody like Trevor Murdoch, for example, on Christmas Day, to say, "Hey, I wanted to call you to wish you a Merry Christmas, and I wanted to personally thank you for everything you've done for my career, and and everything you've done for the boys." You can't put a price on that. And the thing I love about the NWA has always been that there's been very little political maneuvering, very, very little sort of ill feeling and sabotage. Not zero, It does exist. It will always exist everywhere. But for the most part, the atmosphere in the dressing room, so far, up to now, has always been very, very positive. And I think most people in the NWA do appreciate the philosophy of, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Of course. And what can fans expect watching NWA Alwayz Ready on June 11th besides your match? If no one's ever watched the new version of the NWA what we're enjoying now, what can fans expect?
I think there's two parts to this. If you're someone who has never seen the current incarnation of the NWA, but you have perhaps seen the original NWA or the AWA or Mid-South Wrestling, or Jim Crockett Promotions or anything like that, I would like to think that you would get an essence of that. You would get a flavor of that without it feeling like a tribute to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, well, especially when NWA Power started, I think people were very quick to sort of slap a label on it as like old school. It was almost like a novelty, right? Like a sort of retro. They're doing this throwback stuff, and it was. I've always been very cautious to not, to not seem like that. Look, I've been called a throwback a lot, and again, I listen. The fact that even one person would even mention me in the same breath as Harley Race or Nick Bockwinkel, who are probably the two guys I'm compared to more than most, is incredibly humbling. Right? It's bizarre to me, right? Like, and I don't consider myself, to those guys. But again, I borrowed from them and then put my own flavor on it, the same way they borrowed from guys before them and put their own flavor on it. Like, there are certain things in wrestling, and I think this is something that's perhaps one of the sort of points of contention, I think, between the sort of different philosophies that exist in the business now, right? Like, you have a Cornette, for example, and I have the utmost respect for Jim Cornette, but you'll take, he has a very specific philosophical point of view, rooted in fact, by the way. It's right. Rooted in fact, right? Yeah. This isn't
Hey, I love Jim Cornette. No, I won't find a Jim Cornette hater over here. I love Jim.
No, right. But what I find is, when people like Jim are critical of guys from my generation, the first thing that happens is they attack. Yes. Like they call him irrelevant, or that's one of the go-to
old school. That's old school way of thinking.
Right. And it's like, I have so little patience for that, because wrestling, it's really the same as it's why it's so difficult to define this business, because even this sports entertainment, that's become this huge sort of polarizing term now, but it is somewhere between the two, because in boxing's been around for over a century, and I love boxing. I'm a huge boxing fan. In boxing, no matter what happens, no matter who comes along, no matter what skills they're able to display, it's a jab, a hook, uppercut, straight left, straight right, right. So it's, that doesn't change. And I just wish that more people would understand that in wrestling, it's the same thing. There are certain things that you shouldn't change. There are certain things that work, because that's what people want and expect from the genre. Changing them for the sake of changing them, or tinkering with them for the sake of tinkering with them, just to say, oh, look at me, I'm changing the industry. You only got to do that if there's a demand for it. And no one's saying that you have to do it exactly. No one wants to see people wrestle today like Strangler Lewis. You know,
Right. I
nobody
don't want to see you in a claw for 15 minutes.
no, nobody wants to see that, you know, but a good solid lockup, yeah, I want to see that. You know, and you know, presenting yourself in a way that creates the image of a serious athlete. That's what I want. And again, I'm one of the people that believes in variety. You know, I want the guys to be the best version of themselves they can be. Um, I'm not a high flyer, you know, like that's like I come off the top, you know, I'm fairly agile for a guy my size, but it's not me to do, you know, I'm not acrobatic, you know, so I'm not going to sort of try to shoehorn that into my game because nobody wants to see. If I'm paying to see a professional, I don't want to see a professional do stuff that they're only amateur level at doing. I want to see a professional do the stuff that they are a professional level at doing.
Yeah.
So if that's, you know, Randy Orton doing, you know, incredibly crisp, perfect fundamentals with perfect timing and poise and aggression and seriousness, I want to see that.
Correct.
You know,
yeah, you don't see Randy doing a 450 splash.
I don't want to see Randy try something, you know, just because Rey Mysterio does it, you know, the same way that I want to see Rey Mysterio do Rey Mysterio. And when I wrestled Rey Mysterio, I'm like, I'm gonna be, you know, I'll be Tom, you be Jerry, you know, like it writes itself. It's pretty straightforward. And again, like, I think that sometimes there's this pressure that gets put on guys to do everything, right? As opposed to, no, hone in on the things that you do really well and do them at a professional level. You know, it's like a sushi chef. You know, the top level sushi chefs in Japan, you know, they spend an absurd amount of time just doing one thing. You know, they can't move on from doing, like, you know, sashimi or something until, you know, the person teaching them has said, you are an absolute master of this. Like, you cut, like, this is
right. Why flip burgers? Perfect. Why you gonna do flip burgers when you're doing something so well? I agree with you, because it's at one point I felt like in the 90s we had brawlers, high flyers, technical wrestlers. It was like there was categories that you were put into because you were good at brawling or high flying or powerhouse, technical, and then out of nowhere it was like, oh, we need to put all this together, and what each person needs to jump off the top rope and needs to be able to power slam, and it's when like
every match has to have a portion of the match that's like a Japanese match, and every match has to have a portion of the match that's like a lucha libre match, and every match has to have a portion of the match that's like an American style match, and now even British style. You know, every match has got to have a portion of the match where they do, you know, world of sport, you know, exchanging holds, and look, it's great when you know, there are some guys who can do all of it. You know,
it's very rare.
But to me, the thing I love about wrestling, and, you know, the thing to me that it's like the adage in boxing or in MMA is styles make fights. You know, if you get two guys who do the exact same stuff and they wrestle each other, you've got a sort of limit on what you're going to see. But if you have one guy who's a master of, you know, certain things, and it doesn't necessarily even mean moves, it's more like who's a master of timing and psychology and, you know, body language and, you know, storytelling, like that. You know, I would never call myself a master of anything, but I would say my skill set is storytelling. You know, so, like, and I've wrestled guys, and, you know, we were talking about Jonah, you know, when we first got on the call, like, he's a guy who wrestles totally different to how I do, and I wrestled Jonah in Australia. And it was like the night before, I think I'd wrestled Robbie Eagles, a totally different guy. We wrestled two totally different matches, of course. You know, and I've had so many matches during my run with the NWA, particularly when I was champion, with guys who wrestled a very different style to me, who afterwards came to me and sort of said, oh my God, like, that was so easy, you know, like, wow, that was like that went so well. I wrestled Jonathan Gresham a few weeks ago, and I have huge respect for Gresh. Like, he's a masterful wrestler. He's a master at what he does.
Yeah.
And where I don't want to speak for him, but I got the impression that maybe he was a little surprised that I could go like that, with like it just to such a level. But when it was over with, he was like, I can't wait to wrestle you again. I can't wait for us to wrestle again. And I felt the same way.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, and so that's what I've always sort of tried to model my career after, is being that guy, like a Brett, like a Harley, who could wrestle with anyone and enhance their skills, whilst telling a beautiful story.
Now, it seems like wrestling fans are obsessed with what's happening backstage more than what's happening in the ring. And of course, the biggest stories right now, you have MJF and in the AEW situation. We don't know if it's a work or not a work. Sasha Banks, Naomi, we don't know if it's a work or not a work. Maybe these things happen for real and they're not for real. But then I saw a narrative about this Matt Cardona thing where he's like, oh, I'm injured. Then people are like, oh, wait, is he injured? Is he just playing us and is he playing you? Is he playing NWA? Is this a ploy to get us to invest more into what he's doing and part of the pay-per-view to see what happens? So what's your take on people being interested more than the backstage versus what's happening in the ring?
I don't think it's a new phenomenon. I think it's been the case. Like, I can sit here and lament about how frustrating it is, but I would be a hypocrite if I did that, because when I was a fan, I found myself becoming more and more fascinated with, the behind the scenes element. That I think it's like, if I've got a 7-year-old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say if I had something that I really didn't want him to see or touch, is there more chance of him trying to find it and get his hands on it if I say nothing about it and just put it somewhere out of the way and never mention it? Or is he more likely to go and find it if I go, whatever you do not look at this under no circumstances. You can never ever go and see this. Do you understand? And I think that's sort of where we're at in terms of the behind the scenes, because when it's something that the audience is, quote, not supposed to know, now the audience is hooked. Now they're like, okay, now I really, it's why one of the most common sort of advertising lines or sort of hooks that's used in sort of gotcha journalism or in sort of sensationalist writing is when they say, here's what they don't want you to know. Right?
I must click.
Right. Immediately you're like, wait, the secret? Because everybody wants to be smarter than the average bear, right? Like and wrestling fans, it's probably truer than most. They want to feel like I'm a little more than just your common wrestling fan. Okay, I know what's really going on. Like it's astonishing to me that I'll do a convention or something, and guys will come and tell me stuff like,
I don't know if you know.
Don't worry, like I know what's really going on. Okay, cool.
That's interesting that they come to you and they're like, hey, did you hear about this? I know, don't worry, it's just between me and you right now. I'll tell you a scoop.
Well, and I look, and I won't comment on any of those topics that you mentioned, but what I will say is that now, knowing that what I just described, now if the smart people are then able to use that to their advantage, it's just a different form of psychology. It's just a different form of promoting, right?
Yeah.
And I would go as far as to say that in the modern era, with the massive amount of transparency that exists, it's a necessity. It has to be done like that to a degree. But I would also say that you have to use it sparingly, right? It's like anything, I don't know what's a work and what isn't, but I would say that if somewhere down the road, well, let's just say for argument's sake, it is, it's no different than to the first time someone did a table bump, or the first time someone did a flaming table, or the first time someone jumped off a balcony. It's like, you got to be real careful where you set that bar.
True.
Because otherwise otherwise it makes it harder for the stuff that's not so outrageous and spectacular to garner any attention. Well, because you bring, to be used sparingly.
Because sometimes in real life something happens, and then sometimes they take the real life situation and they twist it. Now people are smart. For instance, I'll go back to like '95. Shawn Michaels got beat up by a bunch of people at a bar.
Right.
On TV, they were like, "Oh, he got beat up by some ruffians, and they didn't like him, so he had to hand the championship to Dean Douglas, the old teacher gimmick." But yet, we didn't have the information as fans, unless you had the Wrestling Observer, to know what really happened versus what you're told on TV. But now in today's world, like you said, the lines have been blurred so badly that you're like, well, I know that over there is predetermined and it was planned and it's a storyline. But over here, I'm not too sure. And that makes me more interested in this than that. And I think that's the case. But when every brand starts doing it at the same time, you're like, I don't know. You start questioning everything because I brought up Matt Cardona in his arm. I'm like, well, it seems to me that someone might lean into that because of, is it real? Is it not real? People are like, I need to see the doctor. I need to see the arm. I need to see the everything, the x-ray. Like, that's when people start really diving into it too deep. And I'm not sure what's real and what's fake. And I think that might hurt sometimes or help sometimes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And ultimately, it comes down to supply and demand, right? Like, when, no matter what you're doing, you've got to keep a close eye on what people are responding to with their dollars, not with trending on social media, right? Like, I think there's a lot of wasted energy in wrestling, in my opinion, chasing buzz, chasing attention, whereas I'm always asking the question of, where is the money? Right? Like, what part of this is going to convert people, right? Like, I'm a business owner, and I actually had a call first thing this morning with my marketing people, and in e-commerce, everything's about conversion. It's not about how much traffic you could get. That's great. Like, it obviously you need a lot of traffic, but you need those people to buy something. And it's the same thing. Like, if you I've made this analogy before, right? I could be trending on Twitter by the end of today without question. All I got to do is say something completely outrageous and awful, right? Yeah. I go and say something about the Holocaust, all I got to do is say something completely stupid and unnecessary or vulgar or rude or controversial, and I'll be trending. But is it going to convert? Is that going to then make everybody go, oh, he's on a pay-per-view next weekend, I'm going to buy that? No, like, it's ultimately, again, it's kind of like what we were talking about before with people who try to who spend more time trying to maneuver someone else out of the spot rather than try to prove themselves to be worthy of the spot. Like, ultimately, like, you've got to be able to deliver when it gets there. It comes down to quality. You've got to have a product that people are willing to pay to see.
That's true. And I think the June 11th Alwayz Ready event, I think now, before it was, can Nick Aldis defeat Matt Cardona, the face of NWA versus someone who's trying to become the face. But now, at least for me, and a lot of people are like, what is going to happen.
Right.
How is this match going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Did he lose his smile and he's going to hand you the belt? Is someone else going to show up? Are we going to see a free agent show up? And I think, to me, in the audience, if they didn't know about this pay-per-view, they certainly know about it more so now than ever, because now it's the question of what will happen. And that brings an eyeballs to it too. So pay-per-view, tune in, make money, versus if this was going on Twitter, who cares? Because how are you cashing in on that?
Right. Well, I'll give you, I don't know the answer to those questions. I will tell you one thing though. Nobody's handing me the belt. Like, that's not happening. And I'm not suggesting that that's been discussed, but I would just tell you flat out that if that was ever even brought up, I would say I don't want it.
Really?
Because the belt is too important. And the lineage and the legacy of it is too important, even if Matt Cardona doesn't realize it. You know,
so
it's
if
too
they
important for it to be treated like that.
If someone stepped in to replace him to take on you, you'd obviously do that versus here you go.
Oh yeah. To me, I would have to. You know, it's a belt that has to be won. You know, it's not a belt that's awarded.
True. And I think, again, that's the key to all of this, I think, is June 11th at Alwayz Ready. We're going to find out what is going to happen. Who do you have to beat to get your title back? Because the face of the company is you, in my personal opinion. A couple more questions, though. One, do you think obviously the pandemic was like a big old punch to the face of NWA, because the product you guys are putting out was in really crowd involvement as well, and yet there's no crowd. Well, you can't put a Thunderdome like the WWE did around your ring because locations. So obviously that hurt. Now, do you think the move from YouTube to Fight TV really was also detriment, because it seemed like once people had to pay to watch it, they were like, no, thank you.
Right. It was, it was it was a mistake. You know, there's no two ways about it. It's easy to look back now in hindsight, but it was difficult. But at the same time, I think that I can't speak for Billy, you know, and I would never try to, but it was necessary, right? Mm-hmm. Just because the company was not, you know, it didn't have the resources to be able to ride out an indefinite period where we were not going to be able to generate any revenue. So it was understood, because I was, you know, like I was consulted, you know, I did have a say, you know, obviously Billy was the decision, but my opinion was asked, and I weighed up the pros and cons. And I don't think anyone involved at that time was under any illusion that it was the best thing to do. I think everyone decided that it was the only thing to do in the circumstances at that time. Now, since then, I advocated hard to just go back to YouTube, because I felt like the company was still very much in a brand building phase. It takes, you know, it just takes a lot longer than most people realize to really sort of ingrain yourself in fans' minds as a sort of constant, especially in such a crowded marketplace. So, you know, the tough thing now is that the show is free again. Right. You know, the show is free on YouTube again, but the messaging has perhaps not been, you know, strong enough, you know, on that. So again, it's, you know, that's not my department. It's not my decision to make. It did hurt for sure, because, you know, everything is about momentum, and I witnessed it in TNA, you know, when people, again, it's like I was talking about before with wrestling having certain things that people want, you know, on a sort of regular basis. And it's like, TNA would, they would change the time, they would change the day, they would 4-sided ring, 6-sided ring, back to a 4-sided ring, back to a 6-sided ring. We're going to change the name of the show. We're going to change the logo. We're going to change the colors. We're going to change the stuff. And every time you do that, there's going to be some people who go, I like the thing before.
Right.
Yeah. And, you have to ask yourself, did you change it because you thought that changing it was going to increase viewership, or did you just change it for the sake of changing it?
Probably changing it for the sake of changing it.
Yeah, or because it feels like you're doing something productive, as opposed to sort of, rolling up your sleeves and actually doing what needs to be done, which most of the time it involves just consistent quality, solid programming, consistent, solid wrestling, consistent, solid mic work, and consistent, coherent storytelling, that over time a wave washes out and hopefully a few more come back in with it, and then another wave washes out and hopefully you keep more than you lose. And that's just, to me, that's the turnover of this business is so much effort goes into trying to do something immediate. Like, what can I do right now, to create buzz and
for the sake of doing it,
right? To do something to and people forget, look, when everyone's like this looking up at the giant, WWE, and you're talking about a company with 70 years, 80 years, like
on the stock market, like they're
third generation promoter, Vince McMahon, I don't even know if it's really an arguable point, the greatest promoter of all time, of any promoter, in any genre, Don King, Bob Arum, those guys obviously have done huge numbers in terms of, like, for one singular event, but to be able to create sort of, the brand, and to promote a sort of a worldwide event, that draws without us, that can draw without any specific name,
The only you brought up TNA for a second. The only brand change I remember that I know it changed a million times. The one I always remember is TNA crossed the line. TNA crossed the line.
Yeah.
That's the one I remember forever, because obviously they were trying to create hey, you're watching WWE, but you're not too happy about it. We'll cross the line and come to TNA and watch us. And I was like, boom, that's a good slogan campaign. But then it was like, now it's a blue logo. Now it's called TNA, Impact. It's TNA, but it's called Impact. But it's Impact, but it's not TNA. You're like, what's happening?
And to me, TNA was like, I'm British, okay? So first of all, TNA, as in T and A, is not a colloquialism that we used, right? Like,
it definitely is in America, and that was something I was like, wait a minute, and they have women dancing in cages.
Yeah, so look, I can understand now, looking at it now, having been in America for 11 years, I can understand. Okay, I suppose that to Joe Blow on the street, like, maybe that is not the most ideal thing, but I would also say it rolled off the tongue, it was easy to remember, and it was different. It didn't have a W in it. It wasn't it was 3 initials, yes, but it wasn't sort of, it didn't feel like a sort of, here another something W,
right? WCW, ECW,
I never understood it. To me, it was kind of like, why would you put all this time into building familiarity with a brand just to change it, just because, especially when you have, to me, we're doing this deep dive on TNA all of a sudden. But
I want to say we could talk forever about everything. I must say, I've talked to so many wrestlers, but your mind is working completely different from the rest, and I love it.
That's kind. I don't know. I hope that's a positive thing.
It's a positive thing. It's not a negative.
But again, like the other thing that just is, it blows my mind when you think about TNA was, like, they went from what I signed there I signed in 08 and I debuted in 09, right? So really at the peak of the, arguably the peak of their business, right?
Was that Spike TV?
Like, yeah,
Spike TV.
And they started in 2002. So from 2002 to 2008, 2009, 6 or 7 years, they're on prime time on Spike TV. They're getting multi-millions for that. They're averaging, they're coming close to 2 million viewers every week on cable. And it's astonishing to me that somebody came and went, this isn't working. We need to change the name. Like, we need to get rid of this and change it. And I was sort of thinking, what? Like, when you really think back on it now, and you go, are you seriously telling me that a company that started 6 years ago, just because it's only doing half the viewers that WWE is doing, you think that it's failing? Like, it was,
being concerned about others' business versus your own is not the smartest business decision. If you listen to Eric Bischoff's podcast, he goes on tirades, and I agree with him about how he would talk to Spike TV executives about great decisions and campaigns for TNA, and whoever was in charge, Dixie Carter and her group of people were like, no, they don't know what we're talking about. We know what we're talking about. It's like, can we trust Eric Bischoff, who has a track record? Can we trust some of these people? And maybe they didn't, maybe they don't. I don't know, but
there's multiple layers to that.
Yeah, there's muck. You got to go through the muck and the mud to get.
I have a great deal of respect for Eric, but I also have a great deal of respect for Dixie. So
of course,
I will just say that there are layers to that.
I know. Trust me. I've interviewed Vince Russo. I've talked to Jim Cornette. I've talked to everyone who's ever worked for TNA, it seems, and everyone has a different angle of the story.
For sure.
Because they're all different.
But saying that is a perfect example of what I was talking about before, like wasted energy. Was it like, I spend very little time on Twitter now. Apologies to anyone who tweets me, because the chances are I don't see it. Like, I usually just kind of load stuff up to tweet through the day when I do the other stuff for Legacy and for my other businesses. But because I would find myself, I would go on there and almost without fail, I would go on Twitter and there'd be two middle-aged men who both made millions in our business, without taking a single fucking bump. And they're arguing with each other about who knew more about wrestling than the other and who was more important to the, and I'm sitting there going, you both succeeded.
Yeah.
Like, you both made millions of dollars and you didn't have to take a single bump. You didn't have to put the ring up once. You didn't have to, you didn't have to cram into the back of a car and drive for 10 hours. You didn't have to do shit, just accept that you won.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Just take the W and fucking move on with your life. Like,
maybe they can't. Maybe they can't. Maybe they need that the limelight to be on them, because I've heard stories of people who are like, I was in an 80,000 arena, 100,000 arena, people scream my name. And once that's gone, what's next?
It's not the wrestlers. I'm talking about guys who were like bookers or writers or executive producers or running the show or whatever, and they're all fighting with each other about who did a better job and who was more successful or who was more harmful to the and it's like, at what point do you not look back and I had some wins and I had some losses, right. Like anyone in business, like
anything.
Are you trying to say that everything I touched didn't turn to gold? How dare you? Like, you think Vince McMahon feels that way? Of course not. Like, no. Of course he knows that some of the stuff he's tried hasn't worked, but more stuff has worked than hasn't.
Right.
Like, and that's the epitome of every entrepreneur ever. Hey, I tried 10 things, 9 of them didn't work. That one did. Now next week I'm going to try 10 more things, and hopefully one of them will work again.
You brought up Vince McMahon for a second. WrestleMania, the first ever WrestleMania in 1985. If he didn't try that,
right,
the rest of the world, wouldn't be where it is right now with wrestling. And that's the thing, is like, he took a chance. It worked out for him. It could have flopped, right? And everything would have been upside down.
The Undertaker.
Perfect, right? Good example. Very good example.
You give that character to any, 19 out of 20 wrestlers, and that character is a remember that like
a year, maybe
right.
year.
That thing that goes into a package of remember this, like along with like the Shockmaster and Tugboat and whatever. Right. But you give it to the right guy and you have an icon.
Yeah.
And so yeah, yeah, a lot of wasted energy in the business, and I'm guilty of it too. Sort of pontificating and deliberating on, whose approach is best, whose philosophy is best, who's, and in reality, no one has the answer.
No.
Because you can't tell people what to like. You can't tell people what to pay for.
Especially on Twitter.
Well, and again,
you avoided it, thank God.
It comes down to what I was saying before, like what's converting, right? Like follow the money, because ultimately, like that's really the only thing that matters in the long run, is
True.
being able to feed your family.
And again, follow the money, because we're going to be talking again. I can't wait for what happens at Alwayz Ready with you, Matt Cardona. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'll be tuning in, I think, with a lot more fans, because this story is just building and building and building. You don't use Twitter that much, but I bet they're bringing up your name every 10 seconds right now, because they want to know, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? How's this going to play out? I'm excited, and I know everyone else is excited. So again, Nick Aldis, I could talk to you for like another 5 hours.
This was
unfortunately,
fun. Yeah,
unfortunately, in life, other things need to happen, and I have to go pick up my kids. And you have children, you have a wife, everything. So thank you, Nick Aldis, for being here. Remember, Alwayz Ready, Matt Cardona, Nick Aldis. What the hell is going to happen? We're going to find out when you order that pay-per-view. I'm excited.
He's got a receipt coming, and it's not going to be a little one.
Oh my, see, there's the teaser. Nick Aldis, thank you so much for being here on NBC's 10 Count. I've been Steve Fall. He's been Nick Aldis. We'll see you next time. Bye.